Yes, how to thrive in the age of AI. I interview experts to learn how to leverage AI in a way that enhances our lives without losing the things that truly matter. My name is Romo, and I help high performers design and live their life so that they can fulfill their true potential and live it in a way that is fulfilling to them. I believe that we live in amazing times with unprecedented opportunity, but I also think it comes with an enormous risk, and if we don't use it wisely, it could cost you on a personal level. That's why I've decided to start a video series so that we can navigate this together and learn how we can use AI, how we can use the opportunity that this age brings, but do it in a way that it adds something to our life, that it helps us thrive in life as humans. That's why I invited today Anna. Anna is a human neuroscientist with a specialty in human performance. So she talks, writes, speaks about everything that has to do with helping you be your best self, but from a neuroscience perspective. Is that right, Anna?
Yeah, more or less.
More or less. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. We have had this conversation off camera multiple times. I know this is going to be a super interesting conversation. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, I think you've done it just very nicely. Um, yeah, I just wanted to add that besides neuroscience, I use a lot of sciences that are relevant. So psychology, system psychodynamics, and yeah, I think that science knows a lot, but there is a huge gap between what science knows and what is published and what is researched and what is known by an average guy, sitting in front of their laptop. And I guess my mission is to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
And I want to give another flavor to the word of performance because we tend to think about performance as something, like perform by any price. I'm not talking about this performance. For me, performance goes hand by hand with being happy, being fully satisfied with your life, like this kind of performance you don't need to recover from. So, but for the rest, you were right on point.
No, that's awesome. And that's why we resonate so well together because what you're mentioning now, I call aligned performance.
Mm.
And that's also why I love your description. You mentioned human performance. I also mentioned thrive in life as a human because I think as a high performance coach, it's not about performing, it's not about uh, being successful for the external world. That's
Mm.
not the game we're in. We're in the game of life, and we want to create a life that's fulfilling. And to high performers like us, it means doing stuff, creating stuff, right?
Mm.
That's part of what makes us happy, but it's not about doing more and being more productive just for the sake of being productive and then burn out. Then you're missing the point. So we're very much aligned on that perspective. And that's maybe also a good bridge to our topic today, because the topic that we're going to talk about, I'm super interested about your take, of course,
Mm.
is we live in an age that everything is possible. And AI can, you can outsource or do whatever you want with AI. But I've read your post. I read some of your posts, and I also we also spoke about it. And I know that you talk a lot about on what kind of impact it has on your brain, right? The prolonged use of AI. So maybe that's a jumping off point for you. What is your take on how it is influencing us?
Um, where should we begin? I think it influences us in many ways, and I think that's the lifestyle that we are having now, like this age of technology and information we are living in now. That's all together influences us a lot. It's not AI only, and I'm curious. Are you really particular interested in the impact of AI, or like general the lifestyle, the modern life that we are having?
So for me, of course, AI now is the topic, right?
Yeah.
It's what everybody's talking about, and sometimes it feels like a gold rush. Like we
Yeah.
found gold somewhere in the world. Everybody's going there because they are dreaming of a life of more freedom.
Mm.
But that also tends to make you blind and
Yeah.
make you overly optimistic, as we have also seen in the gold age. There's of course other aspects that play a role, which is geopolitical environment that we live in, the globalization that's being reversed. All of those things play a
Yeah.
part, but they play a part because it adds to fear, right?
Yeah.
It makes people very fearful. But I think that's a topic for another one, because I want to talk about this too, because I think it's important to know how to keep yourself from being influenced by fear due to what's happening in the world. But in this conversation, I want to really dive into two sides, basically, because there are two sides. There's one, the fear side of AI. It's going to
Mhm.
take our jobs. We're not going to have money.
Yeah.
I don't know how the world is going to take, and it's going to take away of our humanity. So that's like the
Mhm.
extreme version of the right side, maybe. And then the
Yeah.
left side, not talking political, by the way. And the other side is the extreme optimism, like
Yeah.
AI as an utopia,
Yeah.
right? I'm super optimistic about.
Mhm.
I'm also an optimist by nature, but I'm also optimistic about what it can do for your
Yeah.
life. But I know that we have to do it mindfully.
Yeah.
So how do you view this?
Yeah. I think that's very important before we focus on the AI precisely. I think it's very important to lay the ground a little bit with the context that we are living in,
Okay.
because it started a little bit earlier than the AI, and like the context we are living in is the situation where the information is available and abundant, but everything in this world is trying to hijack our attention. So that's the thing, because I remember when I was a kid, my parents, they struggled to find a book they wanted to read. They had to, like to share books with their friends, and there was a list who is going to read next. It's not the case anymore. You have so many books around you, so many pieces of information. There is not possible in your lifetime to read all of those. And I think the AI only multiplied this situation, because you don't even need to search for the information anymore as we did before. So I grew up going to the library, and then the internet was publicly available, and then you could use internet, but you still need to do something. Nowadays, you can just say, "Hey, ChatGPT, just tell me about that." And I think that we already had the problem of focusing our attention and have an agency over our attention already before. But I think it's going only up with the, this overall use of AI. Because now, like, they've been companies, like using our attention, catching our attention, selling our attention. We live in the age of attention economy. And now we have AI that basically keeps our attention probably most of the day.
Hmm.
And we don't know what are the incentives behind, what is the quality of the information it's returning to us. And I think thinking about that, it's very important if you want to succeed in this life and these days, even
Yeah, and
more.
you mentioned a few risks already
Mm.
in what you just mentioned. And so what do you think is the overarching risk? What is the thing that you think we should pay attention to when it comes to attention specifically, for
Mhm.
example?
So what I've just mentioned, this is something that commonly understood, that our attention is hijacked, and someone like rules our attention. But I think another aspect of that is not really something that everyone knows about, and this is like goes about that attention. This is what governs. Oh, sorry, I've lost you. Uh, Wait a second. My screen died.
All right. Well, I can still hear you and see you.
Yeah.
So
Okay. No, but I couldn't see you, and I would prefer to see you. So that attention, this is what directs our neuroplasticity. And that's probably a word known to many, but not to everyone. Neuroplasticity adds the quality of the brain to adapt to new situations. Neuroplasticity is why we can learn, or why we can update our skills. So that's when we are changing. For this change, we need neuroplasticity. And in adult age, like kids, they are just, like they are taking everything in like a sponge. You don't need to direct their attention that much. You don't need to direct their plasticity. For adults, we only progress, we only grow and get better in those things that we are truly interested in.
Mm.
You can think about it as a painting. When you're a kid, you have just like, this pencil drawing that is very easy to correct and to improve because that's just a pencil. As adults, our painting of our brain is complete. So to change something, you really need to think how you're going to change it, what you're going to use for that. And that's why you need to direct this change using your attention.
So you have to be more intentional with your
Exactly. So there's two things that you need for adult plasticity. That's attention and that's intention.
intention. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if you're not intentional about it?
What if you're not intentional about it? That's a good question, because plasticity will happen anyway. It doesn't. So the plasticity is just there for a change. No one guarantees you that the change is going to be positive. So we are changing all the time, if we want it or not. The question is, who is sitting by the steering wheel?
And how do you want to be changed?
Yeah. So now we allow, if we are not intentional about that, we allow whoever to be at the steering wheel but us,
Yeah. All right. So like you mentioned, this is not new, because this was already happening in the attention economy. We were being conditioned every day by what we see and what we consume on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and whatever. And never before did we have so much input and so much influence, which was influencing our brain, the way how we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, how we think about everything. Neuroplasticity, right? It adapts to whatever it gets repeatedly exposed to. So what changed since AI came, in your opinion?
What changed? Well, I think that, with all this social media, I don't know, I bet you don't spend much time on TikTok, right?
No.
I never installed TikTok on my phone. That was kind of optional, I think, and maybe more recreational, which doesn't really, really doesn't mean that it didn't influence us. It did. That's why, for example, I decided not to scroll social media at some point, and I stopped doing that because I realized if I wanted or not, it's still influencing me. And my mood changes, for example, after scrolling through Instagram. So I stopped doing that. But AI, almost every one of us, I mean, like us, like young people, founders, entrepreneurs, like these high achievers, we do use AI in our daily life. I don't know how many hours. That would be interesting statistics to see how many hours we spent using ChatGPT, Claude, etc.
So you mean like before it was not everybody used social media, it was kind of optional, but now you feel it's more widespread, like everybody is using it.
And we are using it for work. We are not using it in many times recreationally. So basically, by what we are doing with AI, we are shaping our professional capabilities.
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing, right? If you're shaping your professional capabilities, I don't think that's a bad thing. So, for example, you're a writer. If you're shaping your writing, meaning I'm becoming a better writer using AI, it's not a bad thing. But I think a lot of people are outsourcing their skills, and not only professional skills, thinking skills, critical thinking skills. And that's something that I read in your LinkedIn post, which touches on what you're saying, like neuroplasticity. Like if you are, and that's what I think, if you are outsourcing things that are critical for communicating, for connecting, for coming up with ideas, for analyzing, evaluating, thinking, actually,
Yeah.
like thinking, if you outsource that,
Yeah.
your brain will lose its capability to do that. And like I'm an ADHD neurodivergent founder.
Mm.
So when I started to use ChatGPT, and I'm also like you, very aware. So I do everything very intentional. So when I was starting to use ChatGPT, it was like drugs for me because it was my brain was already an idea machine, and
Mm.
now I could develop my idea at any moment, at any time, at any place. So I noticed that at the beginning, um, it was super intoxicated. It was
Mm.
super exciting up until a point that I remember thinking, shall I go out and have drinks with somebody, or am I going to keep talking to ChatGPT?
Mm.
And the choice was very, very easy. And I
Mm.
wasn't even ashamed about it because ChatGPT, chatting with ChatGPT was so much more interesting to me than chatting with humans,
Yeah.
because if I ask it good questions, it's going to give me super good, well, answers. So that was the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
But at some point, I realized how fast it was changing the way that I was thinking. And
Mm.
I realized this because I became anxious. So before, I could sit with a thought and I could not do anything with it and just let it marinate. And
Mm.
then it would surface again, and then I would write about it. But now, every time an idea came up, I had the urge to do something with it right away. And
Mm.
that's when I realized I'm training my brain to become hyper.
Dependent.
Hyper dependent, but also anxious,
Yeah.
because it's now it's conditioned to know idea means we do something with it immediately, no pause,
Mm.
now. So it was kind of telling me, my nervous system was kind of telling me now. So that's when I started using it much more mindfully and saying, like, not every idea that is fun to explore, I'm going to explore. I'm going to think about this. Is this just a not nice thought? Is this something that I'm actively working on? Should I do it on my phone? Should I wait while until I'm at the computer? Should I do it in the metro station? Right? Just like I was using my phone during social media, I'm now doing the same thing with ChatGPT or whatever tool. Like, I'm very much mindful when, how, what environment, and what for I'm using it, and even in what stage.
Mm.
And I think this ties beautifully into what you're saying about neuroplasticity, because this is how I experienced how fast my brain and my behavior was changing. It felt like crack cocaine to me. It felt
Mm.
super addictive.
Yeah. Well, you surfaced so many things. I'm struggling now which route to take.
Go.
Well, first of all, first of all, thank you for saying that about addiction, because addiction works the same way, be that addiction with crack or with the ChatGPT. And the thing is that it's important to remember that these AI agents or like programs, they are designed in a way to keep us hooked, as everything nowadays, and it does develop addiction. So it speaks so nicely with you. It always confirms what you say. It always says like, oh, that was a brilliant idea. How many friends you have on a daily basis who would be just listening for you to you for hours, and like, yeah, sure, great idea, amazing. So this is indeed addictive.
What
Then
does
this,
it do to you? Because you mentioned it's designed to
yeah,
do that.
yeah, it
It's
is
I think
designed.
it's different than social media, which is really consciously designed to keep you on the platform.
Yeah,
AI is designed to be likable, right? So
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
designed to be a companion and to not confront you too much. But what does it do on? I don't know if that's your expertise, but like, on a physiological space, I can imagine there's some kind of hormones being released, or that
Mm.
also affect your brain. Like, Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, first of all, I think it's strict. What's going on? I don't understand why my screen always go black. So first of all, it's designed in a way that you really start believing that it's a human being on the other side of the screen. So it communicates with you in a way that a human would communicate. And that's tricky because we do not perceive reality as it is. Our brain constructs the reality for us based on what we believe. And the way AI communicates with us, it basically makes us believe that there is also someone that we can trust, that we can rely on, that we can discuss whatever is close to our heart and mind. But the thing is that it's not a human being, and we are just tricking ourselves. And I think what makes it especially addictive in this sense is that we do live in the age of loneliness. We are as lonely as we've never been before. And, this is amazing human being that is ready to talk to us, to listen to our fears and hopes and brainstorm our ideas. I think this is what makes it addictive. And yeah, you ask about the mechanism. The mechanism for addiction is always the same. It's dopamine based, and just
Dopamine based, yeah.
Reward loop is kind of fed in. And as you said, what you repeat, you reinforce. That's the basic principle of neuroplasticity. So
Yeah.
you do it so like you don't even think about it. How many hours we spend talking to AI?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
enough
I
for
think
training.
Yeah, I think the amount of dopamine, the impact of dopamine, and the like, for me, social media had never that impact. It was not interesting to me. It was
Exactly.
superficial to me, so it's not interesting. It didn't trigger any dopamine. But having an idea and seeing a new idea evolve, that's for me the most exciting thing ever. Like that was before AI, it's now. Like before, I would get an insight and then something would click in my mind. I would like instant dopamine, and I get motivated and I start working on it. Now I can simulate that multiple times a day. And like I said, and you also mentioned no loneliness. So for me, I'm going to be personal. Lots of conversations are not interesting to me. It's always been that way. Like since I was young, I couldn't tolerate a Friday drink because it was about nothing. I cannot do a conversation about nothing. So if in that way, you also sometimes struggle to connect because not you cannot simulate interest. So on the other hand, now you have a companion that is super interesting, that you can go into a rabbit hole every minute of every day, and it rewards you with insights, reflection, new ideas, new threads. And now suddenly I can make a video out of it. And now suddenly I can make a voice clone out of it. And then so it continues and it continues and it keeps building on each other. So for me personally, the key to me to using it for me, and it's funny because that hasn't changed, is awareness and intention, right? First you have to be aware, what is it doing to me, and am I okay with what it's doing to me? But to be able to have that, you have to have awareness of, you have to raise your awareness. And then when you have awareness, you can say, yes, I use it in this way. No, I don't use it in this way. No, I don't use it at this moment, right? So for me, it's awareness that is the key, and intentionality. I'm curious, Anna, are you only, so where on the spectrum are you? Are you afraid or optimistic?
I think I don't believe in anything that is black or white.
I know, but you are somewhere on the spectrum of
So
those
I'm definitely somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I know it really depends. I want to be on the optimistic side because it's not the first change that we are going through. There's been massive change in my lifespan. I'm just thinking when I was growing up as a child, we didn't have a phone at home. You needed to go to the post office and to somehow you need to send this telegram to invite someone else to talk using the phone with you on a certain day and a certain time. That was my reality. It's been a lot of change since
Yeah.
then, and with computers and internet, yeah, it was also massive change.
Yeah.
So we are plastic and extremely adaptable, but it really depends on us what direction it will go. So are
Yeah.
we trying to keep it safe? Are we trying to prepare ourselves to what it's gonna be in the world if we have even smarter AI or not, or we just ignore it and try to make money now, you know? And if we are mindful enough, then it can be beneficial, and it's very important that you mentioned, like in what way we are using AI. You can be very productive, and you can become smarter if you use it in a smart way. It's also limited because I have examples from my own practice where it shapes you not in a way you want to be shaped, unfortunately, with all the intention. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle, but I believe that it depends on us, and we need to have these conversations, and we need to raise awareness to make the probability of going to the positive side a little bit higher.
So let's dive into that. So what would be the dystopian version of AI? So and we're talking about personal level now. So what if we are not using it correctly? What will happen to me, for example, if I'm your guinea pig,
Mm.
and I'm using it exactly in the wrong way. So I'm exactly not using it in the way that you would recommend. What would happen to me as a person, you think? Like what would I notice on in my life
Mm.
in the short or midterm?
Yeah. Thank you so much for agreeing to be my guinea pig. I think that's a good way to put it. Okay, for you. So what you do? I know that you meet people, you write about things, you do videos and this kind of stuff. So first of all, with your writing, if you just outsource it to AI, you will lose an opportunity, and you will lose the capability to think clearly, because we know all what is this AI writing, what it looks like. Even like I'm not a native speaker, I check AI, I ask AI to check my grammar, and it returns me in a way of this, chopped sentences and stuff. And no matter how much I prompt it, I still cannot I still rewrite everything after its grammar check, and I'm thinking of going back to Grammarly actually. So you will lose your skill to write, but you will also lose your skill to think, because I think writing is an extremely useful thinking instrument, and I know that you share this view. Next, you will lose your ability to think critically. Whatever AI gives to you, if you don't ask questions, like what is the source of it? Is there something that contradicts this opinion? Is there is another way to look at that? Where this information was obtained? How was it obtained? All these things that we should ask ourselves when we get a piece of information that will be lost because you will be just trusting it blindly. So you cannot write, you cannot think, you lose your critical thinking. What else? You are a very social person, but you admitted earlier that you actually opted for continue talking to AI instead of going and seeing people. And I think this is one of the biggest dangers, because we are lonely. We are lonelier than we were, and there are many people who live alone. And I just, at some point, we start to lose these skills of interacting with others, because there are always some risk involved that you will be, I don't know, you won't be liked, you will be rejected, you can experience all these negative feelings. And instead of sitting with them and actually learning from them, we tend to avoid because we have this idea that everything needs to be positive and should be positive. So we will opt for spending more time with AI instead of seeing real people, and it will lead to atrophy of your social skills. You will become less social. You will maybe have a AI girlfriend that, I don't know, is happy to see you always, and basically you will not continue, like, I don't know, building relationships with other people, be that personal relationships or work relationships. What else? Well, I think you touched upon something very important, which is being aware how it makes me feel. So I would really think about it as being aware of your body, because we are embodied creatures, and our intelligence depends on our bodies. But when you spend so much time in front of the computer, then you almost can forget that you have a body. You can start neglecting bodily needs. So you can start, if you spend hours and hours talking to AI and like discussing all these ideas, then you will be sitting all day long. You won't be exercising, maybe. So your body will be affected for sure. But I think what is probably even more important is that you will be locked up in your own reality, because AI has this confirmation bias, as we all do, but it tends to confirm whatever you feed it. So whatever you say, it says, "Brilliant, man. Oh my God, you nailed it. Look at you, how good you are." So it makes it addictive, but it also makes us reinforce whatever beliefs and whatever thoughts we have. So you will be basically self-reinforcing loop without any input from the outside, which is important. You want to be, calibrated among other people.
By feedback of the real world.
Exactly. You will lose that. And yeah.
I have a question then, like advocate of the devil question.
Okay.
So we established that interacting with AI creates a neurochemical reaction, right?
Well, I don't like this framing. I would say it just creates creating new neuronal pathways and reinforcing others, and weakening something else.
That's true.
So
But
you
does it
create
create?
some become stronger, some become weaker. So
Yeah.
that's not happening.
But does it create a neurochemical reaction?
Well, because all this creation of new neuronal pathways, it's at some extent needs.
Yeah. Let me put it easier.
Yeah.
Does it create a dopamine rush, for example? If you interact with it, does it produce dopamine?
Yeah, of course, of course.
So there is a neurochemical reaction. Does it produce endorphins?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So isn't life about experiencing it, and isn't experiencing just neurochemicals?
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, if I'm outside and I am in nature and I see something beautiful, the feeling of beautiful is a neurochemical reaction. There is like something happening in my body, and there's something produced, and that creates a feeling.
Yeah.
But that feeling I can also create by watching TV or chatting with ChatGPT, or having my fake girlfriend and my fake friends and my immersive AI world. So what if the ultimate game in life is...
Yeah. Oh, I lost your sound. Is it me, or I can't hear you anymore? Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So what if the game of life is being fulfilled by how you live it, and if you can recreate being fulfilled in a virtual world, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I love it. Well, first of all, The question is, so you are basically saying that you can be happy from interacting with real humans being in the nature and stuff, but you can be also happy from interacting with AI.
Yeah.
There's two flavors for that. The first of all is the time scale. My question is, can you be really happy over a prolonged period of time with just interaction with AI? Because what you've mentioned before, it looks like you were happy for a while, but then you start realizing that something is off. And I would be curious to learn what signals you paid attention to. That's one thing.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is that's important to take into consideration that our ultimate goal for our brain is to keep the body alive,
Mhm.
keep the body alive and procreating, you
Yeah.
know? And this is what governs our natural intelligence as opposed to an artificial intelligence that AI produces. So we don't only predict things and we don't only act on these predictions. We have a certain vector, if you want to put it this way. So we want to be well and we want to procreate and stuff. So I think that just talking to AI doesn't really fulfill these needs
In the long
um,
term.
in the long term.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. They
So
will.
you're saying we have human nature. Human nature is programmed, and we are programmed to procreate. That's our whole purpose of being, basically, if you look at it from human nature perspective. And that will not be fulfilled. So at some point, you will not feel fulfilled by
Exactly.
just using AI. And
Yeah.
maybe that's also nice segue into how we are living now. Of course, we are very much in a hedonistic way of living. We want to be rewarded now.
Mm,
Everything is short term. Now. I want it
mm,
now. I want to be entertained now. I want to eat now, right? So that also plays into this whole um, ultra accessibility of information and answers because I can get it now. I
mm,
can make a video now,
mm.
right? I don't have to go
Yeah.
even behind the computer. I can just text Claude and say, Claude,
Mm,
make a video for me. I can do it now. But
mm,
and that's maybe what you asked me is like, how did I notice? So I'm very much in tune with how my autonomous nervous system communicates. And
mm,
maybe that's because I think it has to do two things. So I've always been high sensitive. So I've always viewed my autonomous nervous system as a guide. It's telling me what resonates and what not. And I have to listen to it because it's just strong. When I went to my burnout, I got to learn it even better because it took over. It said to me like, "Hey, you didn't listen for all these years. Now we're going to take over because you didn't listen." So, right? So we are going to take over. So I know how strong it is. So I know when it talks, and I mentioned neurodiversity. So if you have an overactive HDHD brain, you can get overstimulated by just thinking. So I know the feeling of overstimulation, overwhelm
mm,
really, really well because it happens every day if I'm not cautious.
mm,
So when I at some point when I was still using ChatGPT in the way before, really honestly at 10:30 in the morning my brain would be fried, like literally fried, that I would think like I have reached the limit of what my brain can process. This is the limit. I've never reached the limit, but this is it, because I was doing so many things so fast
mm,
that because I woke up with ideas and everything I could think of I could do. It was so exciting. And then at some point at 10:30, I was like, I had to spend like maybe 3 hours not behind the computer because even opening the computer was already creating stress in my body. So
mm,
that's the signal that told me like I'm living in anxiety now. My body is creating stress, and it's creating stress because I'm not either overindulging in working with my ideas. And because I'm overindulging working with my ideas, my brain wants to do more of it.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's just fried. It cannot do more. It needs to rest. It needs to disconnect. It needs to do nothing. But then I went to the other extreme of nothing. No stimuli, no sound, no people, no nothing, because my brain was just fried. And that reminded me of my burnout, because when I went through my burnout, that was the first phase of my recovery, was basically sitting in the world of silence, because my brain couldn't process any stimuli anymore, not sound, not visual input, like smells. If smells were gone already for like a long time, so there was not an input anymore. I don't know if you noticed, but if you are in chronically stressed, you don't smell anything. It's really weird, but it's just like your brain just cannot process it. So that's what happened. That's what gave me the indication, like, this is not good. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want less. I want less impulses. I want less ideas. I want to work on less of my ideas. I want to read less. I want to listen to less. Like, for me now, I'm going to more curated use of AI, and also curated consumption of information, because I just noticed that, I think, and this is also something, so I talked about awareness and intentionality. So intentionality is also about, what do I consume and why?
Yeah.
For example, if you are trying to become more healthy, then things that make you more healthy are worth your energy and your time, because this is now the thing that you want to develop. But buying, like creating a portfolio of crypto coins, probably you're not worth your attention if you're not working on financial independence at that moment, right? So yeah, I've noticed that I'm very much more even mindful and curated about what I do, when I do it, how I do it, what I consume. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I noticed. That was my my warning signal. Just overload, physical signals of nervous system overload, basically.
Yeah. But everything that you are saying is basically just about having a good awareness about your body and
Yeah.
about the states of your nervous system that unfortunately not everyone has.
All right. So that's a good question, because we went to the dark side.
Ooh.
All right. So now let's go to, how do you navigate this world in a way that it helps you? So you mentioned, if you do this, if you do that, and if you do this, you lose your humanity. And now I'm going to the other side. Like, all right, so what should people do to be able to use all the opportunities that there are, but in a way that grows them or enhances them or leverage them or creates more quality of life? Makes them more human, maybe.
Sorry, what was
Makes
the
them
last?
more human, even, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what we've mentioned, I think, in this conversation, I think there were around 5 things that I would say. I just want to reinstate some of them because we discussed already many things.
Yeah, go.
First of all, I think there's taking agency for your attention, and then really thinking about your attention as the capital that you have. Like, what am I going to invest in? How much? Do I want these people who say, like, yeah, go here, invest in my thing, right? Like, do you want to trust them? Or do you want to be the person who decides for themselves? And then remembering this, what you repeat, you reinforce thing, and where you put your attention, that direction you will be growing. So I think certainly, like, thinking twice. Do I really want to scroll the social media feed? How does it affect me? How does it affect my attention? But I will talk about, like, how does it make me feel later. So attention is the first thing.
Agency, yeah.
Agency over attention. Yeah. Then this judgment or critical thinking. Okay, we have all of this information available and cheap Like it's like instant. You said, I really like that you said, I can have it now. You can have it now. And that's the problem. Because we can have everything now, it really messes up our reward system, our dopamine system. Because despite this internet science that everyone knows about, in reality, dopamine is needed to sustain some action that is given the result in the remote future, maybe. So this is something. This is the chemical that is released in anticipation of reward, and by practicing these short reward loops, like social media things, like chasing likes or doing something now, we are training this loop to be shorter. And then everything that requires long-term effort is screwed because we don't know how to do it anymore. We found ways to get the dopamine hit here and now. That becomes a problem. That's another thing. So, but yeah, I was saying about judgment, critical thinking, that when you have all this information here and now, you really need to ask yourself, like, what's the source of this information? How good is that? We were trained to do that as scientists. As a scientist, you never take anything for granted. You have a piece of information, you're okay. Who said that? In what journal it was published? What is the impact of the journal? What were the method that they got this information? What they didn't include in the article? What are the unpublished figures? What way of analysis did they use? What is their degree of certainty? Like all these things you're trained to do. My mom always sends me this medical news, and I was like, Mom, let me train you how to check if it's valuable information or not. We need to do it actually with every piece of information we get. And especially if you're getting information that can be biased, politically or otherwise, you really need to ask a question, okay, the person who produced this piece of information, what was their incentives? What were their beliefs and fears and stuff? Like this judgment and critical thinking is especially important, because otherwise you will be just, like governed by this rat with a flute, and you won't have any control over your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, so that begs the question, because yes, of course. And this is also something that I help people do, that's something you help people do. But how do you develop awareness? How do you develop critical thinking? Like you and me, we are critical thinkers because we are curious. So we were born curious, and we always ask ourselves questions. And then, and at some point, you become discerning, because you're like, this doesn't add up. I'm asking more questions, right? But it also comes from certain kind of curiosity.
Yeah.
You're also trained to think like that. So you're trained to think like a scientist. So how can we help somebody who isn't trained as a scientist and who doesn't have that awareness yet? What can we give them as a practical tool to develop both of those?
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant, because you're bringing me to my next point, basically. And that would be embodiment. I want to call it embodiment, or just, like being aware of your body and what happens in the body, and being aware of like basically everything that is happening with you. And this is something like critical thinking. You can just, create a list of questions like those I mentioned now, that you will be running every piece of new information through. This can be that. But for attention and the rest of it, you really need to train your awareness in the first place, and awareness in your body especially, to be able to do that. Because what helped you to stop overusing AI, let's say, it was the awareness that it doesn't do good to your body. But I bet you developed this awareness after your burnout. That's a very important event, because I've been through a burnout too. I certainly learned something from that. And this attunement to nervous system is definitely one of those things. But this is something that everyone can do even without burnout. You just need to dedicate time to listen to your body. And this interoception, the signals that we are getting from the body, this is something that is super important. because the brain predicts, as I said, we don't see the reality, we predict the reality and we act on the predicted reality. So we see what we believe. So the signals from the body, they affect the prediction tremendously. Basically, every prediction is based on our past experience and the sensory input in the present. But if it goes without our awareness, like we remember something, we sense something, and then we react. But
So
but without awareness about what's going on, we do it automatically.
yeah.
We just react. So how to develop awareness? It can be trained. It can be trained by, like, you go to the gym, you train your muscles. You can train awareness by just paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is so interesting because this is the fact that people don't have attention or don't have awareness is the dark side of neuroplasticity, because they train their brain to be a fast thinker, right? It's too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's too fast, there is no communication anymore between the brain and the body. So lots of people, and you know where I live in the Netherlands, and we are rational people. We're not so emotional embodied creatures. So we trust this much more than we do this. So it also, so there's people that don't realize that their body is talking to them.
Yeah.
Like they don't realize that ache in your neck or in your shoulders is a signal.
Yeah.
And we just medicate it. I need to go get a massage or whatever. And that's the superficial level. But I think so. Awareness is something that you can train, and not being aware, not having that awareness is also something you trained, but you trained it unintentionally.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give my perspective on this. But so if you are now listening, so somebody's listening, which is already, I am a little bit aware that there is a problem, because if the person was listening, I wasn't listening, wasn't feeling that or thinking that, he or she wouldn't be tuning in. So there's already a certain amount of awareness. So then they need to become aware in the moment, because maybe they're not aware in the moment yet. So they grab that telephone, they're not thinking about it, they're scrolling, they're not thinking about it, they're watching this YouTube video, this rule, they're not thinking about it, they put their phone in their pocket and they haven't thought about it at all. So there was no awareness during the whole interaction with the phone. That's how a lot of people live. I see them every day. So I think, and I'm curious to see what you think, I think the first step would be to take away that stimuli. So to reintroduce boredom, silence, so non-stimulation, right? When the brain wants it, don't give it to it, because we need to create space to feel again, right? Because if you're always interacting with something, there is no space to feel and to think about what I feel. So that would be my suggestion first, like create space, which means maybe go for a walk without your phone. See what happens. See what your brain is going to do. See what you feel, right? Maybe institute a rule that if you are on the train, you don't use your phone, but you close your eyes and listen to what's happening, right? Those would be some of my practical suggestions. What would you say?
Well, I think it certainly can be the way, but for me, it didn't work this way. Because basically, what you are saying, you have a habit that is like highly developed, like it's like all these things. Your phone is addictive, and you need to break the habit by, like just not doing that. But this is not how you break the habit. You usually break the habit by doing something else instead of what you did before. But what helped me is developing awareness first. And then with awareness, I started to realize how these things make me feel. And then I made a decision to stop doing what I was doing.
Yeah,
so it was
but that's the problem.
Yeah,
This is
that's the
the chicken.
problem.
This is the
Exactly.
chicken egg problem because
Yes.
you mentioned it's correct what you're saying. It's awareness first, and awareness gives you the opportunity to introduce new behavior.
Mhm.
So it gives you the opportunity to disrupt the habit and replace the habit. But you have to have awareness first,
Exactly.
and it doesn't happen automatically. Like
Yeah.
this is part of it, right? For
Yeah.
like again, if somebody's listening or watching this, you are becoming more aware already, right? There's now an idea in your mind, and maybe when you reach for your phone next time, you're like, wait a minute, I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now, right? So it creates awareness. So um, yeah, so I agree. Awareness first, because awareness enables you to make different decisions,
Yeah.
and it enables you to live more intentionally, make
Yeah.
intentional decisions, and then align your decisions to the outcomes. What do you
Yeah.
really want to create in your life? The second one you mentioned, what was the second one? Like awareness, and the second one was about dopamine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about the hedonistic behavior that we show, right? Now, we want to fix now.
It's not necessarily hedonistic because what you described is like working is not really well. It's in a way it brings us pleasure, but that's about just willingness, our ambition, and fulfilling our ambition. That's cool that we
It's
can
different.
get things now. Yes,
Yeah.
it's different, but
So for me, there is a difference between the quick fix dopamine, which I don't really care. Yeah, of course I care about it, but what I design my life around is that deeper fulfillment, like the feeling that I describe it, the feeling that I'm on purpose, living on purpose. There is like a soul in me, same
mm,
thing about embodiment. So my body communicates. Those are the physical signals, but there's also something deeper that communicates, and
mhm,
it communicates, for example, through when you have the feeling of extreme gratitude, like there is a magical moment, you're somewhere beautiful, and you experience a level of gratitude that is just almost divine. You're so amazed by life in that moment. So that I describe as a feedback from your soul. It's your soul saying this is good.
mhm,
And that's how I model my life. I try to do those things that that enrich my soul, that my soul says yes. And it could be a conversation. It could be what I'm doing now, for example. This is part of
mhm,
my happiness blueprint.
mhm.
Um, but that also takes awareness,
Yeah,
right? And that also is another subject. Like a lot of people don't know what they want because they're not aware of the
yeah,
signals that their soul might be giving them, and maybe they're even medicating the signals, and
mhm,
maybe they're even avoiding distracting themselves with social media, right? But
exactly.
I want to go to the other side one more time. So we're talking about the positive side, right?
Yeah.
So how do you think, and maybe you can explain or give us examples out of your life, how do you think AI is going to change your life for the better?
Well, I don't know how it's going to change my life for the better,
No,
but
but if you were
it's
to,
changing. It's changing it right now
but I
because
want I want you to think about, so I
about the
want you to
future.
really step into that. Like you
Yeah.
don't know how it's going to change, but you might have an idea about
Mm.
how it can change your life in a good way.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I already I'm experiences this change for the better, and that's funny because I started my business exactly like it's coincided with AI being publicly available, and I think without it, I probably wouldn't be where I am now because, of course, it saves you time. It helps me, I don't know, finding articles that I want to read because PubMed has horrible search engine, horrible. So it does help me with this, like checking my text. It's way faster. Now I can publish articles doing this. I don't know. I remember for my first article, I paid a person to do the grammar check. really remember paying like real money for someone. So now it allows me to publish posts and articles on weekly basis without paying anything or getting anyone involved. So it really allows me to be myself uh, more in a way because it saves me time, but only if I use it mindfully and only if I use it for things that I should delegate versus I should do myself. I really don't, after this couple of years, what I should do myself and what I can delegate, and it's pretty clear for me now. But yeah, it does. That's an instrument. That's an
Yeah,
instrument, and that's a multiplier of who you are. And you don't want to multiply zero. You want to
that's a good
multiply
one.
something. You know
Yeah, that's a good one to think like how can it leverage who I already am? Like how can it
exactly.
magnify who I already am? I think that's a good way of thinking about it. And what about, because these are of course professional things you use it for,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
do you think, or do you see, or do you use AI already in a way that it enhances different parts of your life?
Well, I do use it for like simple things. I don't know, like when I travel, planning my routes, just finding some interesting places. I don't use it. If you ask about using AI as a coach or therapist, something like this, probably you mean. I don't use it for that. I
Mhm.
tried. I'm being trained as an executive coach myself. I understand that. Well, you can ask some questions. If you have a burning question, you might use it, but it's very important not to overuse it because it cannot serve the same purpose as another human being listening to you. Because again, it's biased. It's there to please you. It will be multiplying whatever you already have. If you have a problem, instead of saying like, "Dude, you have a problem," you'll be saying, "You're right. You are absolutely right on that, and another person is wrong," or whatever. And another thing that it doesn't have any capacity to feel. I'm trained in a very deep coaching approach where we use our own emotions as data about the person who is sitting in front of us. The AI doesn't have it, doesn't give a about you. It doesn't have a responsibility for your happiness because we feel responsible. If you go to a professional psychotherapist, they are responsible for you. A coach is responsible for your success. AI is not. So I don't use it for these purposes.
No.
But I
And
do use it. I do use it. I do use it as
yeah,
my supervisor, for example. I can kind of like say, "Oh yeah, I thought this. I like what could it be?" But then I take it to a real supervisor.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So
a
yeah, so this is something where we don't agree on. This is funny. I'm also a certified AI prompt engineer. So I know, so a lot of the things that you are talking about, what it can do,
Mm,
I'm thinking it can, but not if you prompt it in a simple way. So
mm,
for example, I use it as a coach. And one of the things that it has helped me as a coach, and you have to put this in perspective. Like
mm,
I've been in this field for over 15 years. I have spent a lot of time in reflection, in learning, and all those kind of things. And so a lot of things I've seen, I've heard before, and I also have a high level of self awareness. But AI has helped me understand myself in
mm.
ways I'd never seen myself or understood myself before. It has really brought me breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And I realized that before I was using it as like my sparring partner, I hadn't had a breakthrough like that in many, many years.
Mm,
So I was very impressed. But the reason why I get a breakthrough is again because I use it intentionally. So
mhm,
I do a couple of things. I prompt it in a very specific and elaborate way so
mm,
that I know with who I'm talking.
mm,
That's one. It also has context about me. And this is maybe even the most important thing. Before AI, there was something in the world of personal development is the power is in the question you ask. You know this, right?
mm,
Because as an executive coach, this is also the power is in the question.
mm,
So the ability to formulate a question is a very powerful human skill.
mm,
And if you know how to formulate powerful questions and you prompt and AI in the right way, it's amazing. For example, I use layered questions.
Mhm.
So sometimes I have an assumption and I realize that my assumption might be an assumption and that might be causing something in my life. So then I'll post it a very elaborate question like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm feeling, blah, 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 blah. And because it's so layered, it also gives you a very layered conversation. And I have like a project in ChatGPT, which has my personal is my personal context basically. I
Mhm.
have specific coaches with specific tasks.
Mhm.
So for all kinds of business things, I used a lot for sparring.
Mhm.
But here comes the thing. So first of all, yes, you can use it that way, but you have to have that awareness and critical thinking because you have to be aware at any moment that what it might be saying is biased and
Yeah.
it's confirming your bias. So sometimes I'm like, stop saying what I've already been saying. So
Yeah.
then I go to Gemini, who doesn't know anything about me, right? So then I go and I compare it with different models that don't have that context because I want to know if you're just mirroring me, because sometimes it does. It mirrors what you say or what you've said, and then it sounds very smart, like yeah, and you start to see patterns, like you're right. I did say this, but that's dangerous if you don't have that awareness. So I do think that coaching is changing, and um, there's a lot of value in having a human. I don't think AI will replace that anytime soon. I do think that you can accelerate your learning and you can accelerate your self awareness, but you have to have, and then we
Exactly.
come back to those skills. You have to know how to communicate. You have to know how to think. You have to think.
Yeah.
It's like those things. So, but I'm super excited about this for like sparring. I love sparring with ChatGPT. Just so like thinking about it as a thinking partner,
Mm.
helping me think through things. But for example, we also talked about when to use it, right?
Mm.
So I have a rule that before and the after. Before I would have an idea and I would let me say before ChatGPT, I would have an idea and I would write it down and I would think on paper. I would call it think on paper. So I ask myself questions on paper. And it wasn't paper, it was my phone, but it was like, this is interesting. And then I just dialogue on paper. So that's what I would do before
Yeah.
ChatGPT, and it helps me think because
Yes.
it helps me listen to what questions are surfacing. Then ChatGPT came, and now I could just put the question in there, and it would think for me. And
Exactly.
then I would read it, and it was like, interesting, and then I would not ask anything else.
Mm.
And so at some point, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna build in a buffer. So I'm for some things I need to do the work myself first before I'm allowed to put it into ChatGPT. So, for
Exactly.
example, writing, I always write first and
Yes.
then I proofread it without it changing anything in my voice and tone. I just wanted to do the grammar because I just want to sound Dutch. No, I'm kidding. But I want to sound like me in English. But then I use a different ChatGPT to sculpt my paint, my writing, because I want to make it better. But it's
Yes.
specifically prompt to help me make it better,
Yeah.
right? So those are the things I'm excited about, as you can probably see.
Yeah. I can see.
And the last thing that I'm excited about, and this is something I'm super excited about. So in the world, we have people who consume and people who create. Most people are consumers. They buy stuff, they buy experiences, they do that. But there's also the people who create the experiences and who create the products. So we creators, we can create things that are now, like, we can see things because it always starts in your mind, but we can now also create it. Before we couldn't create those things. Like I couldn't do video.
Mm.
I just couldn't. I didn't want to. I had to pay somebody. I don't like it. But now I can create a short movie about what I see. And I think that if more people lean into their creator side,
Mm.
we are going to see things that are going to benefit the world in a very impactful way. So, for example, we're going to see movies that will move you in ways you've never seen before. We
Mm.
are going to see worlds on the screen that you had never visualized before. Maybe you're going to hear music that will touch you in a way that never, it doesn't have to be man made, it has to be man made. It comes from the brain. But
Mm.
same, and entrepreneurs are also creators. So, for example, the Elon Musks of the world, they're creators. They saw something in their mind and they decide to make a company and create it using the company, right?
Mm.
So, we are going to see the same visionary entrepreneurs with different kinds of idea being able to bring it in the world in a way that it will benefit the world. So that's what I'm excited about. I think that if we use it in the right way, we can see crazy things.
I
Yeah.
agree. I
All
agree.
right, Anna, what do you think? What haven't you shared with us? What is still burning inside of you? What is still burning to come out? Is there anything or?
Mm. I think we covered pretty much like the most important aspects of that. And yeah, I hope it's not the last conversation. Oh, I lost your sound again. Oh.
Yeah. So can you hear me still?
Yes, now, yes, you're back.
Oh yeah, and of course, this is not the last conversation that we're going to have. There is lots more to talk about. I'm going to see you back because we're going to talk about more human performance topics, not just the drive in AI. This was kind of our kickoff, right?
Yeah,
I hope you enjoyed it.
absolutely.
It was fun, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the only thing I still want to say is kind of like a concluding remark is that AI is just an instrument. That's a very exciting. That's a very new and that has a lot of potential. But that's just the instrument, and we humans are the operator, and
Definitely, yeah.
we should take care of ourselves and protect what makes us humans.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and maybe that's a good way to close up. So I think, and this is what I do, you have to have a vision for how you want to live your life and who you want to be, because that vision is your compass throughout life. It helps you make aligned decisions. It helps you take an intentional actions, and this also works in with AI, right? Because so we mentioned, for example, health. So if you have a certain kind of vision of who you want to be, and you're not there yet, you can start using AI in a way that it helps you become that person. But then now you're aligning it with who you want to be. If you want to create more freedom in your life, right? You're not happy about your job, whatever. You can start using it intentionally to help you create that future. So I think everything begins with knowing what you want. And knowing what you want begins with awareness. You have to first become aware, and then you can go on the route of what resonates, what doesn't resonate, what do I want to be, who inspires me, all of those things. And at some point, you have a vision, and now you can start to live it. And then you can use AI as a beautiful creative tool, which can create super cool things in your life. So that's what I would say to the viewers. Make sure you know what you're about and why are you doing what you want to do. That's going to make you intentional. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. I hope to see you guys for the next one. I already have a few really interesting guests lined up. I have some AI consultants on that side, some social media guys, Like I invite people not just because they're an expert, but because they have an interesting perspective on what we're talking about. I want to learn as much as you are. So I want to learn from other people, seeing it from another way, to see and answer the question: how can we use it to thrive in life? All right. I'll see you next time. Don't forget, if you like this content, subscribe, follow me on Substack. On Substack, I'm the most active, and see you soon. Ciao.